Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. Today's show is Thriving While We Age. And today we are joined by my dear friend, Dr. Michael Finkelstein. Now, before I start, I just want to tell you that this show is vitally important because people do not know how to age gracefully. You know, yes, we'll get older, but you don't need to get old. And that's the whole reality is that you think that when you retire at 60 or 55 or 65, that the retirement is going to bring you back your health because you're not working anymore. But here's the bottom line. I want to tell you why I'm bringing on Dr. Michael Finkelstein, because we had a discussion and I said, I need you on my show. Because here's the reality. You think that the way you lived your life, eating, thinking, drinking, being, is going to do more than sustain you and bring you back your health after you retire? No, it's a downhill all the time. Very rare do I see that somebody changes their personality to change their reality. And I'll tell you something. You may say, yeah, I'm going to bring up the ante because I feel like I'm getting old. I'm getting stiffer. I can't think as clear anymore. I don't have energy anymore. Where's my sex drive gone? I'm not digesting my food well. I don't sleep well. But most people will go and get a 5-foot ladder for a 20-foot hole. They'll feel like they're getting out of the hole, but they never really truly make it, do they? And that's what this is about today. This is about getting you honestly out of the hole, not falling back into the hole. And understand something. Don't you dare compare yourself to the average 50, 60, 70, 80, 90-year-old. Because if you do, you're going down the same path and it's not going to be a pretty one. Okay? So hold on to your hats because we're going to be talking about how you can make this the best ride of your life. Good day. How you doing, Dr. Michael Finkelstein? Nice to have you.
It's great to be back with you. Great year to begin a conversation like this one.
Absolutely. And you know what, everybody? You know what we're out to do? We're not out. This is a new year. And guess what? It's 2020, which means, guess what? That means that we need perfect vision. And perfect vision means, what is your vision of yourself? What is the vision of your life? And we're going to claim that today. And we're not looking for a new you. We're looking for the authentic you. So, Dr. Michael Finkelstein, let's start off. I'm going to start off with a question. Is it normal to lose function while we age? And even though people think it's normal, can you kind of shed some light on this?
Yeah, it's a really intriguing question, I would say, because it's almost a trick question. If you look at your body, physically speaking, of course, as you age, things change. Just look at a 2-year-old and look at a 2-year-old compared to a 4-year-old. And you might say, well, the 4-year-old be very upset that they lost the flexibility that they had when they were 2. And of course, all of us thinking about that would be very happy to be back to 4, let alone 40 or something like that. So on the level of the physical, things change all the time. And we bemoan that and we focus on that almost entirely. And that's what gets us into trouble. The question I would send right back to you is, what's the most important function we have? And do we lose it as we age? And the answer to my own question would be, the most important function we have is consciousness, being aware, being awake. And the fact is, as we age, it increases if we apply ourselves. And so that's the most important function. And so if we focus, on the other hand, on these other functions, like how flexible we are, or how fast we could run, or even how our digestive tract works, these are important to some degree, but not nearly as important as what you said in your opening message, which is making your life matter. And the way we make our life matter has less to do with our body than we give it credit for. It has more to do with our mind and our attention on the subject of consciousness. And in that's how we thrive when we age, because if our focus is to develop consciousness, we can do that every moment of every day and get better and better at it. In fact, it takes aging, I think, a certain degree of wisdom, a certain acceptance of the fact that the body changes, and and a letting it be experience and wisdom to let the body have its limits and accept those, but to not lose track of the more important function, which is the expansion of consciousness.
So basically, what I'm hearing here is let go of those things that you can't hang on to, but make sure while you're letting go, you're growing. You're growing consciously, because that'll more than make up for any of the other things. And then the other thing too is, I know we're going to lose function in different places, but I really believe that if a person is on top of the displaced calcium, the scar tissue, and the crystallization in their body, we don't have to we don't have to become stiff as a board like grandpa, because if we know how to master, what I would like to say, master inflammation in the body. But the reality is you're right. You're right. You know, we get focused on the physical, and we lose the biggest part of us, which is the invisible, which you're talking about is growing consciously. Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, and what I think a lot of people might feel when they hear that is like as if I'm suggesting they bypass their body, that they forget about it, they don't worry about it, or it's not important. And most people have a very hard time doing that. If your body aches in particular, your back aches, well, you can't really think straight. So some of this becomes almost a fantasy, it seems, or it's not reality. What I really want to tune into, though, is the way that you use your body to serve this function of consciousness. And that's not to focus on the body then as the subject, but is to use your body by, and I like the word alignment, aligning your body in the way that it will work with you today to elevate your consciousness. And it may be just incremental improvements, a little bit more sleep, a little bit better quality food, a little bit more hydration, a little bit more peace and tranquility, moments of peace and tranquility during the 24-hour day. It doesn't mean becoming a meditation master in a week. It means just moving in that direction. And when you do that, there's a tremendous shift in your energy field and a tremendous shift then in the level of consciousness. What's really nice about that is your body likes that. The same physical interests that you may have, where you focus on your diet, this time of year especially, people are talking about their new you, their new diet, their new this. Well, that's okay, that's great. The same reason you're doing that will be supported when your mind is expanding in the level of consciousness. Your body really likes that. It thrives under those situations. The signals that your mind saying, I'm taking care of myself, sends to your body doubles the effect, more than doubles. It's synergistic. So it's not worth talking about measurements and calculations. It's really just a much better way of doing it. So both can happen. And in fact, you want to pull them together to make it happen.
How do you feel about the majority of the population? Think about the majority, and how the majority are aging. What would you tell people? Would you tell people that they should use that as a guideline, a baseline, or do you think that as far as the population that is, let's say that over 40, we start to see things go clinkety clank with most of the times now with a lot of people. So what would you tell people? What is normal? Losing a little bit of function here and there, what is normal? And would you call the majority, the masses, would you call them on track, or would you say that we're not on track there?
Well, the people who are listening to your show, I have a feeling maybe a little bit more on track than the average, because they're tuning into conversations at a very high level and are thought-provoking and are inspirational. Obviously, people are seeking ideas, information, energy to make important changes in their lives. So people who are listening to your question and my answer right now may not be the average. However, if you look around, and you look around North America, let's just say, and use that one area, and you see people who are out of shape, physically out of shape. They're overweight, they can't move easily, their energy is low, they have a lot more pain and inflammation. If you ask them, and if there's a way to test them, you would clearly see the evidence is clear that they are on more medications. And so the answer is no, people are not really in good shape on average. That said, every single person is an individual, and every single person can have a better day tomorrow than they do today. And if you can imagine that if everyone who might be listening, whether they are right now or potentially will listen because somebody says, listen to this show, and they make any type of adjustment that moves them in a positive direction, and then you calculate that by adding it up of all the people who might be influenced that way, and you see the change in energy in the energy field of our collective and how that feeds back to ourselves. This whole show, this question is really important, because whatever people are right now, if we can help people move toward a little bit of improvement, and there's a big wave that happens, we all get, all boats rise when the tide rises. And so this is what, the effect is that I'd like to see. So it's true. A lot of people might say, this doesn't apply to me right now. I'm too caught up in my body. It's too out of shape. I don't even have access to these fruits and vegetables that you're talking about. That's not the only way to do it. The first way to do it is with your mind, is to have a plan, is to say, well, I'm going to do what I can. And who can't add more moments of peace in their life by just breathing, by just sitting and relaxing, by expanding, by dissolving into the fabric of the couch that they're sitting on, or listening to peaceful music as opposed to the news, which is sharing information that is quite upsetting. 2 minutes a day of that move is better than yesterday. And everyone can do those things.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question, and I'll tell you, I get this more and more and more, is aging sucks. I don't like growing old. This is what we hear. When's the last time you said that? Have you ever said that?
No, I haven't, but I also, like you, hear it all the time, and I can understand where it comes from. Before I say that to myself, as an example, I'm aware that I'm sore today because I swam in the ocean yesterday, and it was a lot of waves, and it was pretty significant, and so my body is sore. And I say to myself, that's not a sign of aging. That's a sign that I'm using my body, and I like that feeling. Now, you can have soreness because you lifted heavy boxes and you hurt your back. And that's different than, let's say, the soreness resulting from some sort of fitness regime. On the other hand, I have a tendency where I know I could take it one step further and say, gee, this is a sign, because if I did this type of swim 10 years ago, I wouldn't be sore. I could go there, but I don't, because I'm just very happy to be able to use my body and feel my body this way. And it's an attitude. It's an attitude. I'm no different than anyone else. No matter how much of a model I might be to people in terms of how I live, how I eat, how I rest, how I exercise, I'm going to still get old and die. I am not immune to that phenomenon. So I can relate to the fact that it seems like time runs out. My response to that is today, to focus on today. How can I make today the best day possible? And I know if I string the best days possible together, I will have the best life possible. And that's what I focus on.
Beautiful.
My mind.
Let me ask you a question. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I believe that aging has been labeled as a disease. And do you feel the same way, that a lot of people are actually, they may not be like consciously thinking of it, but on a subconscious level,
Yeah.
we have been made to believe that aging is a disease, and you better enjoy yourself now. And how many people, they go, well, you're only young once, and they just go and they drink, they toke, they smoke, they, might as well pack it in because old age is going to suck. What do you think?
Yeah, when I was writing my book, Slow Medicine, which was, almost 10 years ago, I started to write it. But I met somebody while I was writing who was very excited. He was a physician, and he just started a new program called anti-aging medicine. And it dawned on me then, obviously, this has been the way it's been focused now, which is aging is a disease. And there's a medical subspecialty now to be anti-aging, like anti-cancer or anti-heart disease or anti-whatever, and as if putting it in the same category as a disease. And of course, you can understand why that would be the case. Nobody wants cancer. Nobody wants neurological diseases. Nobody wants to die. But that doesn't mean they're diseases. It means that the body is afflicted by a condition. The disease to me that's most important is the one of the mind. If your mind says that my life doesn't have meaning or value, that's the most important condition you could suffer from. When you shift that, and this is again the same answer to all these questions, when you shift from that mindset, it's not that you're indifferent to what happens to your body, but that you realize that your mind is what is most important to care about. And when you shift the focus to your mind, the subjective experience about how you look at all those things that happen to your body shift. They just shift. That you see them happen and you care less about them. It doesn't get in your way as much. It still may get in your way. And then the task is to work more on the consciousness, the level of understanding of the blessings of being alive, and to do what you can with the capacities you have today. I saw many people when I was trained in medicine who were on their deathbed. And this is at one side of it is sort of sad and poignant, and the other side was amazing, was to be able to have conversations with people who were at the end of their lives and they knew it. These are the people who possess the greatest ability to articulate the wisdom of the ages, literally speaking, which is the meaning of life. And not everyone got it. So there were some people who died and they were very upset and they were hurting, they were sad, they were angry. But there was a subset of people who died with a smile on their face. And this is true. And they were appreciative of the life that they lived. Typically, they were surrounded by people who loved them. And they did something during their life that they felt was meaningful. It was very clear to me what the right path was, if that's what you want to achieve. And have that experience where at the end of your life, whenever that is, and I'm not just talking about 90-year-olds, I'm talking about there was one woman who was 48 years old, who died, and she had a 12-year-old son. Of course, you would say that's a absolutely terrible time to die. It's not normal. It's not acceptable. Yet she died with a smile on her face because of the fact that her son was alive, and that she had 12 years with him, and that she believed in her own expanded consciousness, and that she was not going away entirely. That attitude helped her live even the last several years of her life with cancer that was ravaging her body, in love with her son and her husband. It was a remarkable story. It was very inspiring to me. It was the type of medicine that I wanted to practice, helping people do that.
So basically, what I'm getting here is you're saying that find your purpose and then put your heart into it and really turn on the passion and be in the present moment as much as possible, because that's where we need to be. That's how we get the best life of all. So what do you think?
Yeah.
Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Yeah. If I asked a person who is really not there yet, and they're really just about their body, well, my back hurts, I have chronic headaches, I have cancer. And so just like you said in the introduction, why wait till you retire? People could say, well, why wait till your cancer treatment is over? Why wait till your back resolves? Because you know what? We all know it. It doesn't always get better. Those conditions don't always get better. And if you wait until that moment, the time between now and then, which could be years, could be sort of in some sort of limbo state. And you have accomplished very little other than focus on the suffering aspect of it. The thing that's, to me, is most important is to express yourself. You use the word passion and meaning. Yes, that's what I think is really valuable for people to do is you can still share love with other people. You can still witness the beauty of life, and you could send that out as an expression. I see the beauty of a flower and it puts a smile on my face. I still might have cancer and I can do that. And when you do that, there's an energy associated with that. There's a very positive, powerful energy, and your body responds to that energy too. It's not just wasted. It's not like these two things are separate, that you're focusing on your body and your mind and conscious, and that's one thing, and your body is running itself separate. These are intricately connected. And the healing of the body is through the power of the mind, because ultimately it's the mind that lasts.
I have something I want to bounce off of you, and then tell me what you think. And I'm not picking on anything or any sector, but the reality is, I think society has let people down. I think society sets people up, that we cause people to look outside ourselves so much that we end up leaving ourselves empty, brokenhearted. And like you were saying, some people, you would see them on their deathbed and they're just angry and frustrated and they feel like they never lived the life or got the love they wanted. But I believe that that's why you got to watch out what you think, and you got to really question authority. And I think the most important authority that we have to question is our own subconscious, because those beliefs make and shape us. And I think the difference between, and tell me what you think though, because you've seen it so much, but the difference between the person that is, they know they're leaving, and they're like, they're okay with it. I don't know what word to use this, but you know what? They're okay because they know that it's not ending, and they know that, some reason that it's brought them to this path. But then there's the other person that's just pissed off that life did not deliver the goods that society said that we were going to, because society says that you can have everything. But then, do you ever notice everybody ends up chasing the carrot if everything becomes external in their life?
Yeah. Well, again, your question is really on target. We have been led, and we don't have to pick on any group, as you said, to look outside of ourselves for the antidote. And it's either more things, it's either a different type of condition, a way of living, it's a different country. The grass is always greener, and somebody's selling you better grass. And this is typical of a consumer, capitalistic, material-based culture. And the industries that have popped up and the people that we might point to who promote those things are a byproduct of that culture. It's not them that have created this. They're just taking advantage of an opportunity that they have too, living in that culture. They're selling us stuff that we don't need as much as our own peace and tranquility of mind, which comes from inside of ourselves, and perhaps groups and circles of people in a community that we share that get this way of living that you're describing, that we're talking about. And where we apply our attention, where we apply our time, where we put our mind is what happens to us. And so if we put our mind in needing more things and doing more shopping, and being frustrated that we don't have what other people have, that's what we're going to feel. If, on the other hand, we live in gratitude, we share love and bonds and joy with people around us and the natural world, that's what we're going to experience. And that's what our energy in our body is going to be. Can you imagine which of the two is more inflammatory? I mean, if you aren't even a scientist, people listening to us, would you rather be aggravated that you don't have, or grateful that you're listening to some profound music that was written 300 years ago, and you have the headset and the time and battery power to listen to it? You could be in a state of gratitude and at ease in a chair or on the grass, or you could be watching television and complaining to the people around you that you don't have what they have.
So my question then to you is like I was saying, is I believe that most of the major systems that people actually tap into, I believe that they're making people into victims. Because tell me what you think, and how far do you think I'm off? Okay, if we were to go back 100, let's say 120 years, that brings us before the AMA came in, and nothing to do with that. But prior to that, the amount of people that were furnishing canes, walkers, wheelchairs, compared to today, I mean, you know what? Sometimes you go to the mall and you're going to get run over by a scooter. So we're not, okay, what do I want to say? I want to say this, is that I think that victimitis, I think that it's like an epidemic. And I think that, when people start seeing other people their age have a cane, they go for it. A walker, you know what? And I'm going to say one more thing, and then I want you to walk with this with me, if you don't mind. You go to Costco right now, they have a whole row in Costco, all for Depends. And there's no way in the world that even 20 years ago that they could sell that much Depends. But today, they're selling that much Depends to adults. So I know I just gave you a lot, but I want you to tell me what you think, what's going on here.
Well, again, we're abrogating our responsibility. It's not. Although I want to shift the tone of that a little bit.
Sure.
People, I don't want to blame people for
No,
this.
I'm not either.
We are being sort of toyed with, seduced in a way. Yes, we have a sort of a susceptibility to it. Some people a little bit more inured to it than others, but we're being bombarded with imagery and ideas and statements and quote unquote facts and medicine and other things that are suggesting to us that we should be losing our function. Getting back to the original subject of function and
Oh,
nature.
there it is right there. You just said it. They're programming us and telling us that at this time we'll lose this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So they're creating the environment for us to start thinking, oh, yeah, that's going to happen to me. I just got to wait for it. And as soon as I cough and I leak a little bit, well, I'm going to go to that aisle in Costco. And that's sort of normal for me. I'm 59 years old, and that's going to, and of course, it's on time, and everyone knows it. 20 years ago, 50 years ago, it could have happened. It may not have happened. The fact is, some of the things that are happening to our bodies now is a product, literally, of the environment and of the attitudinal shift and the deterioration of our internal fortitude, our tolerance, our sort of own natural mechanisms to hang in there. We've been poked so many holes into us that we're leaking. Literally, using that same metaphor,
Yeah.
where we're just basically a balloon that's being deflated by all this noise around us. So for a person who's listening, the answer isn't so much to complain about that either. It's to recognize it for what it is and to realize that, okay, well then, that doesn't appeal to me to go in that direction. So what do I need to do to be a little bit more immune to that? Just like I want to be immune to infectious diseases in the world. Well, I have to have a healthier system. And to have a healthier system, which is a relationship between all the systems of my physiological and psychospiritual being, to be healthier, I need to be in alignment. I need to take care of a lot of different things that work together, starting with a different type of belief system and a focal point of where I'm going to apply my energy and what I'm going to see in terms of vision for myself in the future. And that should be, ideally for people, not I'm getting old and losing function and dying, but I am living, another verb, I'm living until I'm dead. So I don't have to use the word dying ever. And I'm living, and living to me is feeling the gratitude of being alive and having the opportunity with my senses and with my being to add more beauty to the world and to recognize the beauty that exists. And if I live my life with that mantra, and I take advantage of every opportunity I have, no matter how disabled my body may be, I have a completely different experience of living. And that also, if you care only about your body, actually that's the best thing you can do for your body. So it's the same. It's the same answer. If your focus is your body or your mind, it's the same answer.
With that attitude, you'll be playing in the waves until the end of times. Okay?
Well, that's what I'm thinking when I'm in the ocean, which is, okay, I don't have to swim any distance.
No.
My sister asked me yesterday, like, how far do you swim? I said, I don't know. I just stay in the water for 30 minutes. I just play in the water. I swim against the waves. I go back and forth. I'm not going anywhere. And then when I'm in the ocean, I'm saying I'm in the biggest ocean on the planet. And this water is, connected to Japan and, all over the place. And it's pretty awesome. And if I sat on the edge of the ocean and let the last bit of waves lap up against my toe, I'd still feel it.
So basically, Michael, what you're saying is no matter what age you are, why don't we just let that inner child come out and play in the sandbox and don't make it into a kitty litter?
Yeah, that's the recipe. It sounds too simple. We part of the other thing we're sold is it got to be complex. Got to be really sophisticated because, we are very complex beings and our problems are complex now and our diseases are complex. The environment's all messed up. So it's got to be a real complex solution. Somebody's got to have all sorts of letters after their name for me to listen to them. But the truth is, my grandmother knew the answer. She didn't graduate high school.
Yeah, and if I can say something to that, yes, the science is important, the study is important, but like I say, is there's a hidden practitioner in everyone. And if you take massive personal action at any time in your life, you can turn around almost 100% of all conditions, all diseases. And when somebody says to you, well, you know what? You have this much time to live or this much time to live. Understand what I get out of that is if you stay like the majority, you'll have this much time to live. But if you decide to change the way you do things, you'll change your reality. What do you think about that, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, our reality is what our mind says to us exists.
Yes.
Some people are toying with this whole subject, as I am, of quantum physics and the subject of time. Is time really linear like we believe it is, or as our clocks tell us? Or is it only the now, which is what Einstein said? There's only one moment of time, and it's now. And it's a very difficult concept for people to wrap their minds around. However, science and sophisticated mathematics suggest that the only moment is now. And so that's the reality. That's the real reality. Our living reality, our experience of living, because we've got these senses and because we've got these bodies and because we have a limited mind, is no, time passes. But one can move in the direction of endless time, of no time, by rehearsing it, by just being in the moment now, as often as possible. Just putting your toe in the ocean, even if you can't move any further. It's not about swimming. It's not about distance. It's not about what you look like. It's just sticking your toe in the biggest body of water, or whatever body of water you happen to be next to, a river, a lake, or just go outside in the freezing cold ice and just feel that coldness on your face and say, this is the planet touching me. That experience is awesome. And you can have that experience now. Just add them. Increase the amount of those experiences you have every day is my prescription.
So yeah, when you're saying be in the now, you're saying be present. Be present right now. Don't be in another time zone. Don't be somewhere else. And I think that's the big thing too, where I think men can be accused of this, especially who are really wrapped up in their businesses, is just being in the now, being in the present moment for their family, being in the present moment for the things that really matter. And you know what? You can't be two places at the same time, or you're just doing a lousy job, even though you can't physically be there, but I guess mentally you could be.
Yeah, well, you said something quite interesting and relates back to something that I shared, which is the story of being around people who are dying. The people who tended to be most regretful were the people who were workaholics and who spent all that time away from the people they loved and did not develop those relationships. And their regret was exactly that they didn't take those times and that they were again caught up in a fallacy, which is, well, if I worked harder, I had more money, I could take care of those same people. But they got lost in that. And they didn't have the right balance between work, which is very important, and productivity and taking care of our families. And it's an important thing for both men and women to do, which is to feel productive and to feel like they're giving to other people, raising their own children or supporting their communities or the planet, whatever it is. Meaningful life is important, but there's a balance. You also need to take time for yourself, not as a selfish being, but as an understanding that that's another way that I add to the experience of other people I care about. I share love. I make more music with people. And that is why you want to buy. If I ask the question, if we paused here and said, okay, so, but people are still listening and say, this is all very nice. It's very theoretical. And my body still is a mess. I still hurt. I still think I'm dying. I still feel like I'm dying. My doctor tells me I'm going to be dead in 3 years. All these things. And it's very hard for some people to extract that. But then if I said, well, what do you want to, you don't want to be dying. You don't want to be sick. You don't want to be in this type of pain. if I was a magician and I could wave a wand, just say, and so it came to the right guy, and I could do that, what are you going to now do with your life when all of that's gone? When all your pain and suffering is gone, now what are you going to do? A lot of people don't have an answer to that question. They're flummoxed. They're not sure why they want to be alive. And if you think about it, why would your body cooperate with you in any way if you weren't sure what you wanted to do with the life you have? So the essential point I'm making is you need to, one, know what you're doing with your life, why it's meaningful, and not wait, which was the point you've made a couple of times, and not wait. And that's what will help your body restore the capacity it can for whatever time you have. And every day of your life will be valuable or more valuable. And with that, your life will be better. That's the way to qualitatively and quantitatively improve your condition.
Beautiful. So, how about telling us some of the other things that you like to do so that you can age gracefully and enjoy this ride? So, what are the other things that you would suggest to people? And maybe things that you, like I said, you do already.
Well, I'm very conscious of what I put in my body, on my body, where I put my body to begin with, like what kind of environments I'm in. And I can't be perfect. I don't even expect to be perfect. I don't even try to be perfect. I eat all sorts of things. I eat crap. I do that occasionally. I'm not rigid because I see rigidity, just as an aside, as a problem. I see that as antithetical to living freely and in joy and happiness. That said, I'm not reckless. And that said, I don't get caught up in habits of those sorts of things. But if I'm traveling and I go to a country, or I go to somebody's house, forget a country, it doesn't have to be exotic. Somebody invites me over for dinner. I do not give them a hard time that their food is not organic or that their beef is not grass-fed or whatever it is. I mean, I in my mind, when I shop for myself, will look for those labels. On the other hand, I don't make a point of that when I'm socializing and when I'm in other people's homes and when I'm trying to enjoy myself, because the point that I have in living is to be at somebody's house for a party. That's why I want to be alive. And if I go to their house and I'm upset because of what they're serving me, I've just disabled the whole point of my life. So it doesn't make sense to be rigid. So but I am conscious of what I'm doing, my choices. And I try, just like practicing music. I used to play the piano and clarinet. You're not good when you start. You may not be good if you're not that talented ever, but I practiced and I got better and better and better. I knew the piece that I wanted to play and I knew what it ideally would sound like. 1 out of 100 times I might do it. But I still practiced and I did get better. My skills improved. And my life is a practice. Can I go and buy to a farmer's market more often? Can I find them? Can I spend time? And when I'm there, by the way, I'm not just buying celery. I'm there enjoying the colors and the things that I'm not buying and the people and just the experience. And so I try to make every moment a dance with the beauty of the world. And that's what's feeding me. So whether it's literal food or just the environment, but it's a practice that is reinforcing my own way of living. Mm-hmm. And to me, the way to reframe, let's say, our pursuit of a healthy life is to consider how we live skillfully. I call it skillful living. If we live skillfully, develop the skills for living in harmony, in alignment, not be perfect, but we work on developing those skills. We practice them. We get better and better at it. And that puts us into alignment and helps our mind without trying so much to focus the mind on just soaking up all that nourishment and feeling more alive. At the end of my life, one day, I'll have all those experiences. And hopefully my consciousness, my belief is, somehow will linger and retain all of that beauty that I experienced while I was alive.
Beautiful. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, but I want to start with something, and that's this. Right now, they change when, you'll get different numbers, statistics, percentages, but for the most part that I've seen is an average of 80 to 90% of the population for the last 10 to 15 years is now suffering with aches, pains, and not in a good situation. So that's why this show is so important and the things that you do, Dr. Finkelstein. So, but what I want to say to you is that in your heart of hearts, you do believe that you will thrive until you leave this planet. And I think that you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you believe that the first thing is that you believe you're going to do it and then take massive action to actually do it. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
that's what I said earlier too. First is you have to have a thought and a vision. That's your direction. That's where you're heading. And then you have to have a plan on how you're going to get there. It's
Right.
not going to be wishful thinking that's going to get you there. Although it's good to have a lot of faith, and it's good to have wishes. I don't have any problem with that. But then there has to be practical action. But the important thing in the practical action is one does not need to be perfect. Sometimes people are defeated before they begin because they say, well, I can't do that. I can't find this food all the time. I can't get, I don't have the time to exercise. I don't have the means to do these things. And that's maybe a fair assessment of a certain, person's condition. And yet they'll feel defeated because all the pundits out there are telling them, well, you can't get there from here if you don't exercise. That's just not what I believe. I believe everyone has the capacity to improve their condition in different ways. People have to get creative often, but with that vision, this is how I'm going to live my life. This is where I'm going. And here are the practical steps I can take today.
Beautiful.
And every day, try to do it again. And then every once in a while, when there's a new opportunity presents itself, add something to it. If that's the way you live your life, going from step to step to step to step, that journey looks pretty good and is on the path to get to that goal.
Beautiful. So let me ask you another question. What are the important medical conditions that affect our aging process? And if you could just maybe highlight on a few of those.
Well, I think it's the common ones, as you point out, are the pain and the debility, meaning the body doesn't move the way it did. That's sort of on the external skeletal structure.
Sure.
That's significant. People almost universally experience that to some degree. As I said, a 4-year-old is not as flexible as a 2-year-old. This is just the way it is. But that doesn't mean that makes it impossible to have a great life. But the other things, the next tier would be the things that affect body systems, like the cardiovascular system, so the blood vessels that could cause heart attacks or stroke. That's a big deal. Diseases like cancer, which could run rampant in our body, destroy organs, and ultimately lead to great debility. That's the second group of ailments that create suffering and shorten people's lives. That exists. And the third, I think, is the most important, which are the ones that affect our mental state, which are all the above, by the way, because our mental state, for instance, we get depressed when we can't move, or if we have a heart attack and need open heart surgery, we are depressed after the fact because we almost died and it's really scary and we're nervous now and we're anxious. But then there are neurological conditions, neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. There are things that affect our immune system that are combinations of inflammation, infection, toxicity, which impair how our brain functions. Now, our mind is not our brain, but our mind speaks through our brain, largely. And if our brain in that interface is affected, our nervous system is affected, our mind is, to some extent, feels the impairment of its connection to the body. This is what most people who are listening are probably when they are feeling some resistance to what we're talking about. They're annoyed, or they're in denial, or they're aggravated, or they don't feel they can get there. It's often because they're feeling a disconnect between their mind's desire for what we're talking about and their body's willingness. And often there's something in the mind, or in the brain, or in the body that's causing a depression-like state. I'm not talking about clinical depression. I'm talking about just a sense that I don't have the energy to do that. I don't feel joy naturally the way I did if I was a child or even 10 years ago. And that's the more important condition, because I think that's the one that really limits us. And the things that touch our brain then tends to be the most scary. The things that touch our ability to think clearly. And sometimes pain. Interesting, a new disease phenomena altogether is medications and their side effect. That's a whole nother disease. And that impairs our mind. People know this. They don't like the drowsiness, and that's just a mild side effect, let alone all the other things that happen to people who are on medications. And they feel their body-mind disconnect as a result. So these are the things that are prevalent. What they require is to clean up your environment, your condition, and to use your mind first. The body-mind connection doesn't happen until the mind gets oriented.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's the break in connection.
Yeah, and that's the disease. And if you break disease into two parts, dis-ease, the ease that we would like doesn't happen under many conditions. Then that's a disease. But the conditions are really our subjective experience of having that happen to our body. Now, if we can break that link and see our mind and our lives being alive as separate from what happens to our body, we don't have to suffer from the same type of disease.
Right. And I guess we need to start being a little bit more aware and selective of the thoughts we want to allow to become prominent in our life.
Because that's part of the practice.
That's right.
It's part of the practice. It's just, what are you going to tune into? What stations are you tuning your radio to? It could be talking about peace and love and progress and gratitude, or they're talking about fires all over the place. Now, I don't want to dismiss that, as a incidental and unimportant phenomena. Caring about fires, that are running rampant all over the place is different than living your life in peace and harmony. You can do both. You can do both. But you don't necessarily have to dwell on the imagery.
Don't let the fires burn you up.
Yeah, you have to be careful. You can care a lot. You can care a lot. You can pay attention. And then you can turn it off and tune into a different station sufficiently enough to make sure that you're living and you're restoring yourself. Because if you burn out, you're not helping that fire.
Yeah, so care, but don't take yourself to the point of helplessness, because that is the pit we do not want to fall in.
Yeah, and we're tempted to do that because we care so much, which is a beautiful thing. And some people die with their mission, their arm in the air, and those are some amazing people. And their lives, it's not for me to say, could have had amazing quality and value. But for most individuals, there's a balance. You have to take care of yourself to fight your causes. Mm-hmm. And invariably, one of the most important cause, if not the most important cause, is your own life. Not to survive in competitive sense and tear somebody else down in order to survive, but to thrive. To change from surviving to thriving. To thrive means to tap into the energy of beauty, love, and peace, and to use that energy to fight your battles with peace, love as your number one weapon.
Beautiful. Now, Michael, I just want to take a little bit of a sidetrack. So your book, Slow Medicine, can you tell people where they can find your book and what your website is, and so they can get connected to you?
Yeah, sure. So I wrote Slow Medicine, which is my view on the practical steps one can take to live this type of life that we're talking about, which is based on a wheel of health, 7 different areas of our life that we focus on over time. And so I sort of think of the world around us as the biggest problem, like what you were saying before, and I describe it as a fast world. And so I say if fast is the disease, then slow is the medicine. And the idea is to get into your own rhythm and connection. So that book is available wherever you buy books. And my website is slowmedicine.org. So SLOW medicine.org. And that's the easiest way to find me, the work that I do, where I'm going to be, things that I write, have written, other interviews. It's a pretty rich site with a lot of information. And of course, I would love people to send me notes, michael@sunraven.org. Sunraven is 2 words, sun in the sky, raven the bird.org. That's the farm I live in more of the year in northern Westchester County outside of New York City. I'm not there now because it's not, as I said, I was swimming in the ocean. So our farm is in bed right now. And when that's the case, I take advantage of being in a place where there's more sun, which is important for me.
Beautiful. So everybody, I want you to know that we're doing a 2-part with Dr. Michael Finkelstein. And the next show is going to be about the truth about Lyme's and what you can do about it. Okay, so Lyme's has become a really big issue. And I will tell you something before we bring Michael back on in a minute. I've got people calling me all over the world, coming to me. And guess what? Lyme's is the go-to disease. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm saying that practitioners out there have gone crazy at diagnosing so many conditions as being Lyme's. So I wanted to have Dr. Michael Finkelstein come here and shed the light on Lyme's so that we can get a better understanding of it. Now, understand, so we've got today's show. The next show will be on Lyme's, okay, talking about it and taking it apart and then talking about what we can do about it. And then we're going to be followed up by that, okay, 2 days later after the Lyme show. And we're going to be taking questions on today's show and the Lyme show. And we're going to do a Q&A and we're going to open that up to everyone. And we'll be taking your questions live from Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can send your questions into Intercom. And you can send them in ahead of time. Just make a note. This is for Dr. Finkelstein. You can do it on my Facebook or Intercom. We'll start saving them up. And then, like I said, we've done this show. We're going to do the Lyme show. And then we're going to do 2 days later, we're going to come on and we're going to answer all your questions. So what do you think of that, Dr. Finkelstein?
I'm very excited because these are really important subjects. These are things that people are speaking about now, they're worried about, and there's a lot of information out there that's confusing, and I want to help people focus so that they can take care of themselves.
Thank you, sir. I just want to say that, I have so many people on that are truly amazing, and I got to tell everybody, I love Dr. Finkelstein. I love his heart, I love his brain, and I love what he stands for, and his education that he has. I mean, we're talking about somebody that that really is well educated, but you know what? They're well loved because that's all he wants to do is give. And you know what? He's found his gift, and then he says, I want to share it with the world. And I think that's what Dr. Finkelstein was saying today is find your gift. Find your passion, find your purpose, and then go and give it to the world. Because when you give to the world that gift that you've been bestowed, then you're getting all the blessings that you'll ever have in your life. Dr. Finkelstein, what would you like to tell our beautiful audience?
I think the answer to your question, how can I live more, beautifully, longer, healthy, is to think about the beauty you bring to your life today and just keep working that way.
Beautiful. So the power is in the present, as he was stating throughout this. And guess what? Dr. Finkelstein is living it. And that's it right there. I want to thank Dr. Finkelstein. I want to thank everybody for watching. And we truly want you to check in with Dr. Finkelstein and all about Lyme's. And then we will be doing the Q&A. And understand something. This is your show. So please question us and always question authority, okay? And don't be afraid. All your questions are appreciated, all right? And don't be that person in school that wouldn't put their hand up because it looks like if we put our hand up and ask a question we don't know, we've been taught to dumb ourselves down. Don't. The person who asks the most questions is the person who's going to have the most answers. I want to thank everybody for joining with me today. Understand something. When you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe below and make sure you click on the bell to enable notifications so that you never miss a show. And just know that all our Q&As are time-stamped. That's right, they're time-stamped so that you can find your question easily. You don't have to watch the whole show. You'll be able to go to YouTube, find your question, and Dr. Finkelstein is going to answer it for you. So you don't have to spend like the whole time there if you don't want to do that. Just know something. I also have Q&As every Friday, okay? Except for this Friday, okay? But most Fridays, I have Q&As. And understand something, everybody. Know this. As Dr. Finkelstein said, okay, live in the moment, okay? And be passionate and be forgiving to yourself and love yourself totally, okay? So that you can rise to your greatness no matter at what age. I just want to state my little Braveheart quote. I am love, I am healed, I am Braveheart. Today and every day, from the moment I rise until I gently close my eyes, I will trust, honor, respect, protect, forgive, and totally love myself first and foremost before anyone else or anything else. So help me God. I am, I can, I am healed, I'm Braveheart. Again, I want to thank my dear friend, Dr. Michael Finkelstein. Thank you for coming on, sir.
You're welcome. It's a privilege.
All right, to all my listeners, God bless everyone. And don't forget, okay? Take your power back, but better still, stop giving it away. 3, 2, 1, you got this. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.